Hey guys, what's going on? So today we are just going to quickly talk about legendaries. This is a question that I have been asked a lot on stream, which I don't mind. I'm always happy to answer questions on stream and on Discord. And I figure just making a video, maybe 5 or 6 minutes, that just covers it will kind of, be a good reference point. So, first question, I often get is I crafted Unhinged or Exploiter, either or, and now I'm the opposite Covenant, right? So, in the case of Unhinged, there's a lot of people who switched from Kyrian to Venthyr, or they made Unhinged as a Venthyr, and they're wondering, oh, look, is this a really bad choice? No, I don't think so. Like, Unhinged is still okay. It's going to be a flat damage increase if you're running Storm of Destruction, 1.5 minutes, and 1 minute, and every 1.5 minutes if you're not running Storm of Destruction. The reason why it's not so good on Venthyr in particular is you don't have Spear. So Spear does add a lot of value. It gives you a mastery bonus on top of, the spear damage. It syncs really, really nicely with that. But Unhinged is still very good into a lot of melee cleaves. Even just a single target damage is 2 Mortal Strikes on your Blade Storm. The main reason why people who play Venthyr don't necessarily like Unhinged is, a lot of the times with Venthyr, it's all about uptime, right? It's not necessarily about having those big spear goes. You just want max uptime to get as much rage as possible so you can condemn, Mortal Strike, pump damage, right? Unhinged sort of like counters that because you kind of want to use Blade Storm to avoid CC, break roots, for utility, stop stuns, all this kind of stuff. And if you're using Blade Storm for utility, often you don't get the nice setup with the sweeping and the Blade Storm on the Unhinged on 2 targets with Colossal Smash to get huge value out of it. Whereas with Spear, oftentimes, you can lose a bit of uptime, but if you do get that Spear, Colossal Smash, Unhinged burst, it's huge. It makes up for it pretty quickly. It's still not a bad choice if you've made Unhinged. I have an Unhinged, which I made when I was Kyrian on this warrior. So think about it. It's not the worst thing, right? Maybe you want to start to consider if you made a 190 Unhinged and you changed to Venthyr, or you have a 220 Unhinged, 225 Unhinged, I'd probably say, maybe pause your Unhinged now. You have the value out of it. You can still use it into melee cleave. It still has value in your playstyle as a Venthyr. I think it's still okay into melee cleaves and any time where you can cleave 2 targets. But, now you might be looking as a Venthyr into Exploiter, Sephuz, or Misshapen Mirror, right? So let's talk about those real quick. Exploiter. People still ask me, is Exploiter shit? Is Exploiter worse than Unhinged? What are my thoughts on it? I did a whole video on it, but covering it quickly for this video so we have it nicely packed. Exploiter is fine. It's not going to be insane. Like, you're not going to put it on and see like 50k Mortal Strikes. Or more realistically, you're not going to see 15k Mortal Strikes every game. More realistically, you're going to see a general increase in your Mortal Strike damage as a Venthyr. Instead of hitting maybe 4 to 5k, it might hit like 7 to 8k, or like more realistically, like 3 to 4k goes to like 5 to 6k. So you still get some decent value out of it. I would recommend, like, Exploit is just a nice baseline damage increase. It's just nice baseline single target increase. With the overpower and the sharpen, you get some more burst out of it. 100% okay. You can craft this as your first legendary as Venthyr, and I don't think you're really going to have too many regrets. It's just decent. It's not crazy good. It's not crazy bad. It is just definitely status quo baseline for a Venthyr, because you just get a little bit more extra damage out of it. Now, the other two I would talk about, Misshapen Mirror, Sephuz. So if you're an Orc, Sephuz is definitely a really good all-round choice. If you pick Sephuz first as an Orc, you could probably get away with just running this every game, because you're always going to find value out of reducing crowd control effects. You get the 80 secondary stats, which happens off charges as well, and kicks, a lot of different things. An 80 roughly translates to 2.5, and then when you stack it with your Orc racial, which is hardiness, you pretty much take 30% less duration and stuns. Really nice. I strongly recommend it if you're, just playing a whole bunch of different things. You're gonna not regret making this. Misshapen Mirror, I think, fits perfectly as your second legendary. right? If you've made a 225 or 210, whatever, of Unhinged, Exploiter, Sephuz, doesn't matter if you're Kyrian or you're Venthir, and similar with Sephuz. I think Sephuz is better if you're Venthir Orc, right? Because like you get hardiness, and two, like Venthir, you're just harder to peel. People can't stun you off. You're a bit less like, I feel like sometimes you're a bit more squishy because you don't have the file and stuff like that. So you might run BM, but I would say Sephuz fits really nicely into the Orc Venthir archetype with, either General Draven, which gives you a damage reduction when you're under 40% health, and you have Hold Your Ground, which, links really nicely with everything if you're trying to tank an RMP or something. But also Thrill Seeker, right? Thrill Seeker, familiar predicaments, you're harder to snare, you're harder to root, and you're harder to stun, harder to CC. Works nicely. You're kind of unpeelable to an extent, right? So Sephuz, definitely a strong option if you're an Orc. If you're not an Orc, then I would say Exploiter. If you're a Venthir, might pull ahead a little bit. Not 100% sure on that, but and I think if you're Kyrian, Unhinged is probably your first legendary. I think you can craft Unhinged or Sephuz as an Orc Kyrian pretty safely. They're probably pretty equal. And then if you are a human, Alliance, Troll, Tauren, whatever, anything that isn't Orc, then I think Unhinged Kyrian is a better baseline. If you're starting out as a warrior or you're just gearing your warrior, this is going to give you value every game. There's usually going to be multiple uses for this, and you'll kill people just with the Unhinged. So if you've made one of these, which I would say Exploiter, Unhinged, and Sephuz are probably your ideal first legendaries, which is just kind of your choice, depending, one, on your Covenant choice, and two, on your playstyle, what comp you're playing. I think Unhinged works really well with TSG and Cleaves. I think Sephuz probably works better with like Warrior SP, Warrior Mage, a whole bunch of comps where you have a caster involved as well, where you might not necessarily want to be bursting with Unhinged in the same way. So for your second legendary, there's a couple choices. I would say Misshapen Mirror is probably a very, very safe baseline. You can just chuck this on into a lot of caster comps. You can chuck this on against a lot of SPs, and the spell reflect is essentially as long as the person, your nearest ally, is in your line, it's like 50 yards or something. It's something ridiculous. It can go like across the world sometimes and give them reflect, to a lot of casters' dismay, but your benefit. So if you're like, which one should I make next? I've just made this. Then I would say make Misshapen Mirror, maybe upgrade it to 210, 225, whatever. And then look at Sephuz if you've made Exploiter, and then vice versa. If you've made Sephuz, look at Exploiter if you're Venthir. If you've made Sephuz first and you're Kyrian, go for Unhinged. Do I think Signet of the Tormented Kings is good? I think it looks pretty good for twos. It's probably fine for Cleaves as well. If you're a PvE and you've made this, I don't think it's really going to hurt your playstyle too much if you can't craft any of your other legendaries yet. It's still going to be good. Like if you get the Avatar Recklessness, that's huge amount of damage. If you get the Avatar Bladestorm, less value, but I mean, you can cancel the Bladestorm. It's more just if you proc the Avatar and break CC, which I think is sometimes a bit overrated, like how often that might actually happen. Obviously, if you play this in WMP, you're going to annoy the fuck out of your mage, right? When you Avatar and break everything. But if you're playing like TSG, that's not even an issue, right? You could break the sleet, but apart from that, it's not really a big issue. I think if you're faster canceling your Bladestorm, a lot of the times it's not going to break too much CC if you're playing Cleaves. Something like Route Warrior, I think this is fine into as well, and it's just a general increase in your DPS, right? It's the reason why people run it in PvE. So if you've made this first, don't worry about it. Maybe I'd consider making Sephuz if you're an Orc, and follow the same logic. So hopefully if you've gotten to the end of this video, you're a bit more secure on your legendary decision. I took a bit long with that, right? A lot of talking. It's kind of the style of the videos, guys. Like I think a lot of people watch these and they're like, you talk too much, and I'm like, well, it's kind of what I do. It's why people like the videos, it's why people don't like the videos. So I can't find a middle ground, and that's probably something I'm not really ever going to compromise on. Ultimately, don't be too fast with your legendary, right? Unless if you've made something like Echo of Ionar or like Third Eye the Jailer, then maybe you can be a bit worried, because it's pretty much like having no legendary. But even if you've made Battle Lord or Enduring Blow, like obviously I wouldn't spend a whole bunch of Torghast coins, what if it's called Soul Ash, upgrading this stuff, right? But I would definitely say, you're gonna still be able to push rating. Not having Exploiter, not having Unhinged, not having Misshapen Mirror hurts, but it's not as big a deal as you think it is. All right, guys. Hope that was useful. Take it easy.